should know how to do. So I'm going to go through the styling, the CSS part of this pretty quickly. But what I want you to remember is the div structure that I showed in the previous video, where you're nesting divs inside of divs. Of course, in some cases it's section, so that you take what looks like this currently and you make it look like this. Okay, and I'm even gonna, inside the next block of code, I'm gonna fix that spacing that should be here. Should have a little extra space there. So let's take a look at how we're gonna modify this code with styles to turn this into 2 columns. So first, let's go hop into the code, and I've gone on ahead and I've put in things that I know I'm going to edit, and I've already put it together, and I deleted it so that I can add it in one thing at a time and you can see it as it updates. Okay, so again, we've got this outer div, we've got a section. Inside that section we've got headlines, we've got paragraphs, headlines and paragraphs, and then we close that section. Remember, we could change section for div and it would not affect anything. Our next section is a series of divs that are nested inside of each other. The outermost div is where our tower ads live. Okay, those tower ads are going to be inside here, and I'm going to show you, if I remember, I'm going to show you how we could swap our spacing from the tower ads, from the paragraphs of text and over to the tower ads, and we get a slightly different version, slightly different display. So let's dig in, and let's first start with our paragraph. Okay, this is where I'm talking about where I've got a margin right that's going to add that space between these paragraphs here and these tower ads over here. All right, so I'm going to put this in. I've got a dark color that's almost black. I can talk to you about why I don't choose pure black. I chose the font family sans serif. I'm going to use font size 1.5 and line height 2. REMs, text align left. I'm declaring text align left here just in case something else somewhere else overrides it. This is just kind of a little thing I do for safety. And then again, I'm going to add that margin right. So I'm going to save this real quick. We're going to come back over here and we're going to take a quick look, and we notice that we've got our headline, we've got our second headline, and we've got between it we've got a paragraph, so you can see what the headlines are and how they look different. All right, the next block of code was those headlines. I'm going to start working on that. So I put in the color to match here. Truthfully, here's how I did it. I actually copied all of my styles from paragraph, pasted it into H2, and then said, well, what is different about a headline than a paragraph? Usually it's size is the big difference. And I didn't put a margin right simply because, well, most headlines are shorter, but it wouldn't be wrong to keep a margin right and put it up in here. Okay, so I changed the font size and the line height. I wanted to nuzzle that paragraph up a little bit under the headline. Something you can do to make that differentiation between paragraph and headline is maybe to add a space under the last paragraph or something like that, but I didn't do that here. Or you could add a space above a headline so that that headline separates itself from the paragraph above. All right, so let's take a quick look and save that and see what changes that makes. It's not going to be much, but you're going to notice that our headlines get bigger, okay? And the space is not really that pronounced. You know, we still see that this paragraph is related to this headline simply because it's underneath. One thing you may want to try is to affect your headlines so that things above it are pushed a little further up so that there is a separation that this headline relates to this. But culturally we get that. All right, so there's our headline. What's the next thing I'm going to add in? I'm going to come in here to the article, and I'm going to have the article have a font size. Okay, it's already determined by our P tag, our paragraph. But here I'm declaring it also so that we add a float and that it's set to 70% width. And of course our font size, our line height, and our font size, font family, and line height are all just repeats of our paragraph tag or P tag. And that's not going to make much difference, but it does help me differentiate that if I wanted something to be specific to article or paragraph, I could actually separate those. So let's save that and let's take a quick look to see how that changes. Check it out. Now we've got our headline and our paragraph, but our paragraph does not go all the way across. We've got this extra space right here where we could put a tower ad. Okay. Now I do want to call out that our space with our paragraph is actually added onto the paragraph tag, and so there is a space, a margin right, that buffers between this and our tower ads, which will take up this space. Let's come in and let's now look at our main content. I'm just going to, for safety, throw in display flex. That way later on, if I decide, I can actually start calling on flexbox types of things for those displays. Okay, we're going to save that, we're going to update it, and you're going to notice that now we have our ads coming up here. But our ads are too stinking big. Oh my goodness, we definitely can't have this. So how do we fix that? That's in our next sections that we're going to do. We're going to start working on our tower ads. So here I'm going to declare my width. This is a lazy way of doing it, I'm going to admit. We're going to declare our width as 30%, and we are going to float it left so that it comes up the side, which it already does, but by creating that float, we are absolutely declaring that everything on the left it'll be floated up to the left of things, to the right of things, that it will be floating, we'll be using the float left to make sure that it comes beside the content to the left of it. Sorry, I'm talking gibberish. And then the text align, we're going to have the text inside of our tower ads. Everything's going to be centered, just so that we can differentiate it. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to refresh, and you're going to notice that now my 30%, my 70% width here is now back in play. But my images, something's up with the images. What else do I need to do? Well, let's take a quick look at that. Those images. We notice we got tower ads and we've got all that other stuff, but we now need to affect the image size. So if you'll notice when we scroll down here, all of my images, they have a class of add image. All right, so whenever I start working on this, which is our next thing, is going to update the image size. So let's really quickly, let's look at what that's going to be. First off, I'm going to have a border left radius and a border top radius, okay? And then I could put, well, you'll see here in a minute, all this stuff down here, what I'm affecting with the size is right here. And this is to show you that you can actually have two different styles from two different directions affecting the same thing. So let's quickly see what I changed there. Save that, and when I refresh, we'll notice all I did with that is I changed the corner. The bottom corners are still square, okay? The top corners are rounded, all right? That's all I did with this. We're gonna start working on the image size down here. So let's grab the next one, and here is our border radius for the ad itself. We're going to put that same 1 rem border radius, and we're going to put a border, a 1 pixel solid black border around it, and we're going to put a margin on the bottom of this ad on the outside to push the next ad a little bit lower. So let's save that and refresh. And you'll notice that I've got my 1 pixel border around it. Okay, it's dark, but you notice that it stops here. Why? Because the border of it is only 30% the width, but the image has not gained that that style yet. You come down, you now see that we've got our text is supposed to be centered. It's kind of not. Our button is centered, and we've got our expiration date. Same thing happens here. We still notice that our black border stops right there because it's 30%, and our text and all that other stuff looks horrible still. All right, let's go continue. All right, let's work on that text. That paragraph text is going to be bold, it's going to be black, and it's going to be sans serif. All right, that's the paragraph text. All right, we're going to put a margin bottom on it so that it has a little bit of space below that headline, and we're going to create that font size to be 1.5 rem. So let's save that and hit refresh. Now we've got our font size that we want. Now let's come in and take a look at the expiration date. So this is going to be a paragraph with the style, the class of expiration. Our font size is going to be pretty small, and I might come in and change that just because that's really small, hard to read. Font family still sans serif. So let's save that and refresh. Look, we've got a small font that is sans serif. Now let's work on that button. Let's give it some color, some shape, and make it correct. This is a lot more code here. We made our font weight bold. We want a bolder text. We want a larger font size, and we want the line height to be big enough so that we put a little bit of space inside that button that feels comfortable. We want the text color to be black. Of course, text color is not text hyphen color, it's just color. That's a little confusing. We want our background color to have something else. This is kind of a Carolina blue color. We want to put a little bit of padding around the text so that it, or around inside the button around the text, so that it's a little thicker, a little heavier, looks more like a button that you could tap with your finger. We want a border? No, not really. But we do want a border radius, and we want that border radius to be 5 pixels. I declared that as pixels. This is simply to show you that yes, indeed, you can use pixels or you can use rem, okay? Let's save that and refresh and see what we got. Check it out. We got a button that's Carolina blue with black text on it. It's got a very short, small corner radius here. It has no border around it. Maybe we'll come in and work on that again to see if we want to continue to change it. Last thing is I'm going to work on this image. Okay, now I'm going to save that. I've got an image that is now 100% the width of the box that it's in. It's not going to now, it'll no longer overflow. The display will be blocked. That's going to ensure that each ad is displayed as a block element versus as some kind of line element that can change, that can actually expand out beyond. And we're going to add a margin bottom of 1 rem to put some spacing between the image and the text. So let's save that, let's refresh, and now you'll see that we've got our ads in place. The last thing I've got to do is I've got to get this text, all of this text, centered. So how I'm going to do that? Come in here, and I'm going to add text align center. Save, refresh. Now my text is centered there. Now let's talk about that space between here. You notice that I said that if we put the space here, that pushes the text in. But if I put the space inside the div that's holding these 2 tower ads, it'll actually make them a little thinner. I'm curious to see how that'll look. So we're going to come up here to our paragraph text. We're going to remove this margin right here, delete, And then we're going to come down here to our tower ads, and we are going to say, I think it's that one. Let's come down here and find where we're at. I need to remember this. Yes, div tower ads. So that one, I need to put padding, not margin. We're going to put padding on it. So I'm going to come up here to tower add, tower ads, plural, and I'm going to go padding is 1 rem. I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to hit refresh. And now you notice that they collapse in here and here. All right, let's try that again. Let's do, instead of padding, let's do padding left. And we'll hit save, and you'll notice that it will fill in the space over here, but keep that space over here. So let's refresh. Now it's back over here and filled in here and here. So it didn't drop down as much. Let's try margin. Let's see what margin would do. Let's go for margin. Let's just use margin all the way around. 1 rem. Save. And now it pushes all of that stuff back down. It does make it a little smaller. Now let's make margin left only. Margin left. And there you go. So I personally would probably prefer padding left. And I'm sure you're probably not going to notice a difference. Okay, so there's the articles and there is the ads. I'd like for you to play around with that. Sure, let's come down here and take one quick gander at the expiration. Let's make that 0.8 and we'll save it and refresh. Now our expiration date's a little more readable. All right, so you play around with that, and then we're going to, our last video is going to, or last couple of videos is going to be working on that footer that's going to be down here. Let's take a look at it in the finished site. Once we come down here, we have a copyright, and then we've got 4 columns of stuff. So that's what we got to do next. See you in the next video.